Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Raymore City Council work session for Monday, July the 19th, 2021. A fairly short agenda tonight. We only have a couple of items on the agenda. The first item is probably going to take the bulk of the time for conversation, so it deals with the water and sewer rate review. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I will turn it immediately over to Ms. Williams to make the initial part of this presentation.
All right. Good evening, everyone. The city follows a cost of service model to determine our water and sewer rates. Annually, we complete a thorough analysis of using a water and sewer rate model. We've been using for quite a few years the same model. In this analysis, it's important that we maintain a fund balance that's adequate to cover our costs. And that includes a 20% reserve of our expense in the enterprise fund. We do that in the park and the general fund as well. We track the number of customers that we bill for water and sewer, as well as consumption that is billed for each water and sewer. First, I'll talk about water rates. In analyzing our rates, we are assuming consumption per customer of 64,000 gallons annually. So that's just takes all of our water customers and spreads it 64,000 gallons annually. This is taken from the past 5-year average of billed consumption. The number of customers anticipated for fiscal year 22 is 8,561. We anticipate paying Kansas City for 547,904,000 gallons of water. We track all of our water consumption each month with Kansas City, so that's taken into account with all of the things that we track in our performance measures. We will not see a rate increase coming from Kansas City this year. This is the second year in a row where Kansas City did not pass on a rate increase. The city of Kansas City completed a water utility cost of service study and indicated that they won't change wholesale customer rates. Due to our estimated increase in customers as well as our increase in consumption, our model calculates an increase in our water rate this year from $6.38 per 1,000 gallons to $6.46. So that's an 8-cent increase. Last year it did hold at $6.38, so it hasn't moved in a couple of years. So moving to our sewer rates. For sewer, the average consumption for the past 5 years is 53,290 gallons annually, and our estimate of customers for fiscal year 22 is 8,296. Little Blue Valley Sewer District provided the anticipated rate increase to us this past week. Their increase for the city is 4.1%, and that's based on an 18-quarter average for the city. They changed their methodology last year. So it kind of benefits the city the way that they changed their methodology to go like a rolling 18-quarter average. So our increase for fiscal year 21 was much less than they originally told us last year at this time because they changed their rate methodology. In addition, for Middle Big Creek, we have 1,969 customers anticipated next year in Middle Big Creek. That's with some new development and things that will be happening over in the area where Middle Big Creek is at. The rates this year are $37 per connection, and they're anticipating, they haven't taken that to their board yet, but they're anticipating moving that $37 to $38 per connection, and that would begin in October of 2021, which was taken into account with all of our analysis. When our rates were set for Little Blue Valley last year, they had forecasted a 12% increase for Raymore, which was much less, so that's why we're be able to see our rates coming down. I think when I look at our sewer rates, the break even for sewer rate is $8.48 per 1,000 gallons for volume method billing. This is a decrease from $8.65, so it's 17-cent decrease per 1,000 gallons. And the winter averaging calculation rate is $8.93 per gallon per 1,000 gallons. So overall, in the water and sewer combined, we're looking at a 9-cent decrease when you look at the bills together. If I take what we use for our average, like winter average, if someone's new to the city, is 5,300 gallons. So if I take that, it's like a savings of 48 cents per per month, the way that the rate's coming down. That completes my presentation.
Thanks, Lisa. Any questions? Mr. Barber?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First question, when Kansas City says they're not raising our cost of water, is that for a calendar year? Is that for 12 months, or can they come back at any time and raise that? And my second question is, so if we look at the average, it's a net of increase between water and sewer, roughly 10 cents? Is that, am I reading that right? Or 9 cents, maybe?
9 cents.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a decrease between the two of them. So it's a 17-cent decrease in sewer, and it's an 8-cent increase in water rates.
Okay,
So it
right.
brings the total combined rate down
Okay.
by 9 cents. I only received something from Kansas City. They do this annually on their budget year.
Okay.
They send it to us. Generally, we get it in February. I think their budget year is May 1st, is when theirs goes into effect each year.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Lisa? Questions about the sewer rate change? Mr. Fearborn?
Thank you, sir. On this particular sheet, which is the one you'll see in the budget, if you take our recommendation at the public hearing on these next month, you will notice the available fund balance is actually going to be, we're trying to eke that down from where we're projecting 2021, where you see 2021 proposed or projected, the last blue column that's on there. We are anticipating ending with a fund balance of $1,048,280 at the end of this current year. That's a little high. The reason it's that high is because we sold a heck of a lot more water than we thought we were going to, because everybody was home last year. So when we were making these projections a year ago now, as everything was, the trend line was going down, we weren't anticipating that much at-home water usage. So again, what we want to do is keep an available fund balance in case we need it, but only what we think we're going to need. And we'd like to actually see this in 2 years from now drive down just a little bit more. 700,000 is pretty good. The other thing that you see in here is, as we continue to have aging infrastructure, you will notice that we want to go from the net operating revenue in the green for the projected year of 679,497 at the end of this year, revenue over expenses. We want to be driving that number down as well to get that available fund balance number down. At the same time, we want to make sure that we recognize that even though we're experiencing a lot of new growth, areas like Silver Lake, where we're starting to see a lot of utility issues, we're beginning to get some aging infrastructure out there. So we want to make sure that we maintain that $600,000 transfer into the Enterprise Capital Maintenance Fund, because we're seeing more and more usage out of that. And in future years, the rates will be dependent on needing to creep that amount up. It was originally in what we call the Enterprise Capital Maintenance Fund, is actually the 3R fund for the city. If we were to base it on when we began the transfer approximately 10 years ago, a $1 million transfer into that fund representing 1% of our total infrastructure expense would have been more appropriate. So you're going to see us recommending, beginning in 2022, a step up of that amount, which will necessarily impact, that's a direct cost of service. And again, we only want to be charging the customers in this fund what it takes to provide the service. Part of providing the service is making sure that the infrastructure is in good repair. So again, it's true to the cost of service model. Any questions on that portion of this?
What is that? Is that a crooked finger, or what is that?
Sorry. I was thinking with my finger. Just so I'm clear, Mr. Fearborn, the available fund balance at the end of the projected for that balance is truly the usage because of the everyone was home, and my dripping water faucet that added to my bill.
Correct.
On this particular cycle.
To be really true to it, last year when we were creating the enterprise fund and going through this particular exercise, we were projecting under council adopted a net gross fund balance of $1,613,000. You see that just above the available fund balance in council adopted for 2021.
Yes.
So that 1,000,006 is now projected to be a total cost of, or total gross fund balance of 2,416,000. That's a lot more revenue than we thought we were going to be generating. But at the same time, more revenue in this fund certainly means more expenses in this fund, which is why you don't see that same dramatic increase in the available fund balance, because we're having to account for the mandatory 20% restricted.
And that was my other question. If we had that much in revenue, what are we, because we have to spend it within this area.
Right.
So we're expending it on maintenance and, okay.
Especially on the water side, because the sewer side tends to be set previous. Now that's why we're going to be paying on the sewer side in future years, because obviously they're processing more up at Little Blue for us. We're probably also going to see in future years an increase associated with sewer in the short term, because they're probably going to be going from a per connection. You can probably explain this even better than me, sir. They're going to be going from a per connection format to what Little Blue Valley Sewer District actually does, which is a volume process format. In the short term, it's probably going to mean everybody's going to be paying a little bit more. In the long term, we're actually going to benefit from that, because other Cass County cities are going to be, other Middle Big Creek cities are going to be paying a little bit more. That concludes staff
Yeah,
reports.
we had to, I don't know if you all recall, but we had to change the rate system out there at Middle Big Creek because the power plant wanted to come online with their waste product, and that it at $32.50 per connection, which it was back then, would have been crazy for us to take them on with their hundreds of thousands of gallons a day that would be going into the waste system. So they are going to potentially have their own meter out there, so it will go through a metering system that is planned at 9 separate locations within the district. Depending upon what meter your flow goes through will be based upon, your rate will be based upon that meter. So it'll be evenly distributed through that group in that fashion. So it'll be, and plus they'll have their own, they'll use some of the water rate products, rates as well to average that out. So it's kind of a little bit complicated, more than what Little Blue Valley Sewer District does, but they'll be more fairly compensated for the service they provide. Large expansion going on out there at Middle Big Creek. They'll be coming back to us fairly soon with a resolution to support a bond issue that the district will do, a no tax increase bond issue, so that they can finish those upgrades on Middle Big Creek, make it a more robust processing facility
Mr. Mayor,
for our people that live on that side.
could you refresh my memory around the boundaries of Little Big Creek and Middle Big Creek?
Basically, the ridge line that runs similar to Kurzweil. So things east of Kurzweil go to Middle Big Creek, things west of Kurzweil. But it kind of swirls around on that ridge line there that's part of the Alexander Creek ridge line.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of weird the way it is, but most of the folks east of Kurzweil are on Middle Big Creek. Any other questions?
Yes, we always like to dispel the myths for you all.
Yeah, no kidding.
If the council has no objection, we will be putting this on for, you'll remember, or you may recall, we are required by state statute to have the sewer rates in front of a public hearing, so the public has the opportunity to weigh in on them. The water rates do not have to have a public hearing, but we always combine the two anyway. I'm sure the mayor would not object with anybody getting up to discuss the water rates either.
Anything else?
Ms. Williams, when is the public hearing scheduled?
It's the second meeting in August.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, we'll go into item B, which is the board and commission appointments. We've got quite a few coming up, some that are reappointed, some new appointments due to resignations. And then with regard to Mr. Clark, who is being appointed to the park board, he has, or presently sits on the TIF commission. We received his resignation letter today from the TIF commission so as to placate his appointment to the park board. We still have an opening on the Arts Commission due to the loss of Pam Simpson. I don't know if you all heard, but she passed on July the 2nd. Longtime member of the Arts Commission. She'll be a horrible loss to that group. But the one appointment or reappointment is Mr. Jones has expressed his willingness to continue to serve there. But we still have one more appointment with the Arts Commission to consider here. And I think we just got an application recently
That's
from
correct.
a good candidate. So we'll be moving forward with that. Okay. If you have any questions about any of them, you can give me a shout, but it'll be on the next agenda, next Monday night. Correct, yeah. Well, he's living with his parents right now in two. Did he find one? In Raintree? So he'll be out of the city. All right. Anything else? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Just very briefly, privileged on Wednesday of this week to be celebrating my 34th anniversary in public service. And so I've decided that maybe I'll celebrate that by, if the council has no objection, taking a couple of days off right after.
No.
Not that
That
I've worked
happened.
every day of the 34 years. I don't want to give that impression.
Mr. Barber.
Would you define taking the day off to us?
exactly.
Thursday after I approve the, I'll call in to approve the council packet because we have a very large mailing for you all for Monday night. And
Actually, yeah. Can't get in the building. Yeah, did you have something?
I just have a quick question that kind of falls under other. I was hoping Mike might know, when do pictures of the chairs for summer scene have to be turned in? It says Thursday on the website. I was hoping that meant Thursday by midnight.
That is correct, because they will have voting go throughout the day on summer scene. Correct.
And I'm pretty sure all of you received the email from Mrs. Kirkhoff for the Missouri 200s. Her and I are in touch. We did a great deal of phone tag today, but we're in touch. It so happens that's a farmer's market night, and we actually had plans for Missouri 200 for that particular evening that kind of in tandem with her. So she had ended her email with me about the possibility, our first group of correspondence, of maybe instead of having it at the Historical Society building, joining in up here, or a combination thereof. So we're working on that, and I'll be in touch with you all once we get a kind of a final plan together.
Great. Berenson.
One more under other too, since we have a new member. When are we redoing our family photo?
So the plan is, we wanted to schedule a time that we knew everyone would be here, but also would be on a regular council night. We are tentatively looking at that second council meeting in August. This would allow us to get the entire council in a group, but also if anyone wishes to update their headshot, if you would like to be available before the meeting, we can do that as well.
Because what we want to do is put you all up against blazing
Wow, you
hot
love
brick
pictures.
the second week of August.
And we will send out
That sure is gonna
reminders
get
as
you
well as we
better,
get
brother.
closer. Yes.
Is it? Okay. All right. Anything else? Under other?
On the, if Mr. Freeborn was okay, if we get an update on the raise grant, just for the council's understanding that's been submitted.
It is the RAISE grant, which is what we have submitted. You will remember last year we submitted the bill grant. We submitted the RAISE grant last Friday.
This is for the
So
highway.
it is now in their hands. Very, very similar to everything else that we had last year, with the exception of we have some new folks on our letter of support. We've actually gotten one of the items that is a huge difference from last year is last year we got a letter of support from MoDOT, but they were not going to be a participant in the grant, which obviously having your state highway department on board is a big deal. This year, they are actually wanting to be a participant in the grant. They would actually in fact, pay for the administration of the bid and all the design and engineering work that would go into it. So all of that comes off of the costs that are being borne by our voters and by the feds if they end up giving us the $25 million that we need, which is a very, very good thing. We also received this year a letter of support from KCATA, where we now have a presence. So that both of those are very, very big as far as this particular submittal is concerned.
Yep.
Do we know what's the timeline when we'll hear back?
They keep it as much of a secret as they possibly can until like the day before.
Question on that. So while this is in, so as each of us will interact with our different elected officials at the state and federal level, continue to plug this, is that encouraged, or is it, once it's submitted, conversations to encourage support for this stops? I didn't mean for that to be a trick question.
Not tricky, just touchy.
It's a trick answer. Unfortunately, our local congresswoman has trouble with some of the wording in the grant, and so the only person who we did not receive a letter of support from at those particular levels was our local congresswoman. Our other hope is that we use the homework of the grant to submit under the president's current administration. You all may be aware that earmarks are back. We have, unfortunately, Senator Blunt's office has made it very clear that because in principle he does not believe in earmarks, nor does our congresswoman, they will not be submitting any for our district or the state of Missouri in its entirety. So the homework that would go into this, where if we don't get it, we would like to immediately turn around and have them lobbying for us as far as earmarks are concerned, that's not going to happen either. But those are the only two downsides to this particular submittal. Everything else is, and especially the MoDOT deal, is really on the up. Thank you, sir, for understanding that.
Anything else? If not, have a pleasant evening.